This is Explanation, a podcast explaining my opinion on why Adnan Saeed is innocent. I am Asad Kudair, the host and voice of the podcast. Before beginning, here is a brief run-through of the events that occurred. In 1999, in Baltimore, Maryland, a popular high schooler who attends Woodland High School, Min Lee, disappeared after school one day. A couple of months later, her body was found in a park. Hay was killed by manual strangulation. Detectives later on arrest Adnan Saeed, her ex-boyfriend, for her murder. Adnan says he is innocent but has been locked up since. J. Wilds. Jay Wilds was a friend of Adnan's, but they weren't close friends. Although they were friends since middle school, they had a mutual friendship. You know, like that one guy you always saw but barely spoke to? Yeah, just like that. They occasionally did illegal things together, like smoke weed that Jay would sell to Adnan. Jay was the only witness the state had against Adnan. The only problem with Jay's testimony is that it has always been changing and contained many inaccuracies. Every time he explained his story, there were guaranteed adjustments. The police should not have only been advised that Jay as a witness is unreliable, but they should also be skeptical of him. Aren't detectives trained for things like this? In this case, it allows Jay to easily insert Adnan as an alibi to hide what he has truly done if he was the one who has done it. Additionally, Jay's timeline was the prosecution's timeline, thus rendering it very problematic. An instance of a blatant defect in Jay's story is when he says that Adnan was angry when Hay broke up with him, which led to him saying he was going to kill her. This was a lie, as not only did Adnan refute it, but Asia did so as well. Asia says that he was pretty chill about it, and that he had the kind of attitude of saying, if she doesn't want to be with me, then that's fine, and to just wish the best for her. Furthermore, Adnan states that he loved her in the way of high school love, and that got over her. So that when they broke up for good sometime before Christmas break, he says he was sad for sure, but not obsessed or anything. He also adds that he had no reason for being angry at her, he only showed affection and care for her. If we take the benefit of the doubt and assume Adnan was lying, then we have Asia as a solid line of evidence refuting against Jay's word. Additionally, another instance of an error in Jay's story was that Jay has said that Adnan and he were not super close. They would occasionally smoke weed together. I do not think that Jay would occasionally join Adnan in being an accomplice to an elaborate crime. In brief, Jay should not have been seen as a reliable witness to have the state exclusively use his timeline due to him revealing inaccurate statements. There should have been cross-examination with him, as the police clearly did not show any skepticism toward Jay. This would have led Adnan a step closer towards innocence. Asia McClain. Asia McClain wasn't really close friends with Adnan, but they have been normal friends. Adnan was a pretty popular boy back then, particularly with the ladies, so she spoke to him occasionally. Asia sent Adnan 2 letters after he had gotten arrested. In the letters, she explained that how she saw him in the library along with her boyfriend and his best friend. She remembers clearly because she had been waiting in the library for over 3 hours because her boyfriend was so late. Furthermore, it had snowed that day, which led to the school being closed for the next 2 following days. Asia says that Adnan was checking his email on the library computer, and when they finished chatting and were about to leave, it was around 2:40. We know that Hay was dead by 2:36. This information would have nullified Jay's and the state's timeline and would not make any sense that Adnan has murdered her at that time. Finally, a solid, unambiguous alibi which can manifest Adnan's innocence. So why was this alibi not used during the trial? It was solely because of Adnan's attorney, Christina Gutierrez. Altogether, Asia was the most crucial alibi which could have candidly proved Adnan innocent if it wasn't for the attorney. This would have led Adnan another step closer towards innocence. The attorney, Christina Gutierrez. Christina Gutierrez was Adnan's first attorney. She was labeled as one of Baltimore area's most ferocious criminal defense lawyers, according to the Baltimore Sun. Why wouldn't anyone hire her for that statement alone? It had turned out that Gutierrez was a surreptitious attorney which covertly throws cases to gain a higher amount of money for an appeal. She was a completely corrupt attorney. She purposely mishandled Adnan's case, sacrificing it. If given Adnan the benefit of the doubt, saying he did not send Asia's crucial letters to the attorney, then why did the attorney not personally contact Asia? Sounds very suspicious, right? Although there is proof that Gutierrez has seen the letters from Asia, nothing was done about it. A note with Gutierrez's handwriting saying, Asia plus boyfriend saw him in library 215 to 315, was found within the boxes of paperwork. Furthermore, another note was found from one of Gutierrez's law clerks that said, Asia McClain saw him in the library at 3. Asia boyfriend saw him too. Library may have cameras. This evidently shows that the attorney was fully aware of the possible alibi, Asia, but still didn't contact her. The reason for this was that Gutierrez played a strategy, but this was undoubtedly not a strategy. This strategy was clearly devised to throw the entire case to gain funds from the client. It is not uncommon to create strategies, for example, to not pursue certain evidence or to ignore certain questions. On the other hand, to not examine a possible alibi, to never make a call, or to never check out, this is coherently not a strategy, just plain incompetence. This is called ineffective assistance of counsel, and the jury should have seen this regardless if the case was closed. After the case, Gutierrez agreed to be disbarred by consent rather than defend herself against the cases being filed against her in court. This should have been a sore eye for the jury to see that the attorney was corrupt and that there should have been post-conviction relief with a new attorney. Altogether, if an uncorrupt attorney were present during the trial, the case would have undeniably produced different results. The alibi of Asia would have been presented and could have easily proved the innocence of Adnan. This would have led Adnan to take a massive step closer towards innocence. The jury. The jury's verdict is where it exclusively stands. Firstly, since the beginning of the case, the jury has always had a bias towards Adnan. He was presented in such a negative and unappealing way during the trial, which I believe had a considerable influence on the jury's verdict. It was believed that the court had illustrated Adnan as a boy who plays the good old Muslim at home, but then drinks and smokes. This is called character evidence and is extremely uncommon in trials. This is because it can create a bias within the jury to find the defendant more likely to be guilty. Therefore, because Adnan is described as a bipolar person with a dual personality, it has persuaded the jury that he is more guilty due to his negative characteristics rather than because the evidence proves him guilty. Secondly, Adnan not remembering the clarity of the day on January 13th, 1999 is completely valid. He understands how it might come across that how convenient he doesn't remember the day so no one can fact check him or poke holes in the story because he has no story. This is directly backed by Sarah's opening experiment with Tyler and Elliot. Upon asking teenagers what they have done on a particular day 6 weeks back is merely impossible. She found out that if something significant happens during that day, you remember that and more of the entire day. Adnan stated that there was nothing abnormal about that day and that it has been completely normal. Now, I want you to give it a shot. Try remembering what you have done exactly 6 weeks back. More specifically, what you have done on the 2nd of June 2020. Keep in mind this was at a time when there was no text or social media. Yeah, really hard, isn't it? Well, that was the situation Adnan was in, so it should be completely logical that Adnan wouldn't have remembered. Lastly, I believe that the jury has a slight case of anti-Muslim prejudice. Knowing that Adnan was an immigrant and is Muslim definitely hindered the fairness of the trial. If he had not been a Muslim, I would think that he would have received a fairer trial. Something like anti-Muslim prejudice should never matter in a trial, but I believe it had in this case. In the end, I personally do not believe Adnan is guilty but rather is innocent. He ultimately had an awful combination of an unreliable and faulty witness that the police turned a blind eye towards his doubtfulness, a corrupt attorney who sacrifices the case purposely for financial gain, and unfortunately an unfair justice system which rather looks upon character evidence rather than solid proof. This, I believe, led Adnan to being convicted although innocent. After all, we will never know who the true killer of Heyman Lee is. I would now like to take a minute to say thank you for anyone who tuned in till the end. This is the first and final episode of Explanation, a podcast explaining my opinion on why Adnan Syed is innocent. Thank you to the websites Genius, Elle, Baltimore Sun, and the Serial Podcast for the information used, as well as to the music showcased by David Feslian for Too Good. You can check him out on Feslian Studios music at feslianstudios.com.